34% of the UK population reportedly have no savings, and 39% of the UK population reportedly don't feel comfortable managing their money. While nearly 9 million people are in serious debt, with only a third of those people reaching out and asking for help. So this brings up a couple of key questions in my mind of that. Are people aware of how to structure a budget? Are people aware of what is coming in and out of their accounts every month? Are people aware of how much they're spending on certain things? And do individuals know how to structure, prepare and report upon a monthly household budget? By the stats that I'm looking at and researching for myself, the resounding answer is not really. And as someone who has grown up inside of a working class household, I've experienced this firsthand myself. I wouldn't say we were impoverished by any means, but definitely there were months where my parents would sit down and get upset in regards of not being able to afford birthday or Christmas presents, or having to take out debt to afford basic necessities. And for me growing up, that seemed like a fairly normal thing. But it's come to my attention as a young adult who earns a monthly salary that budgeting and money management is at the forefront of potential solutions that can be implemented almost immediately that would drastically lower these figures and help to paint a bit of a rosier picture around the situation. Ultimately, it's a game about knowledge, and not a lot of people have the knowledge or have never been exposed to the knowledge of money management and budgeting as a whole. So in this video, we're going to go through my paycheck routine, where my money goes each and every single month upon payday. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons I make very blatant, informed decisions about where my money goes every single month without fail to help build a better financial future. Because again, we're coming from a situation, no family help, there's going to be no inheritance, none of this stuff. So I do feel on my own a little bit in regards to building this structure and having this mindset, which is probably why I like talking to camera about it. It allows me to be a bit more nerdy with it. Why do I have a paycheck routine? It's quite simple. I don't want to be part of that 39 or 34%. I mentioned this point in a previous video, but Deloitte brought out their Gen Z millennial study surrounding how depression and anxiousness is brought upon by financial issues and financial stress that could potentially be avoided by implementing a paycheck routine and a budgeting strategy. But there are a couple alarming pieces of data from this report that I think are worthy of a mention. Almost half of Gen Z, 46%, and millennials, 47%, live paycheck to paycheck and worry they won't be able to cover their future expenses. More than a quarter of Gen Z, 26%, and millennials, 31%, are not confident they will be able to retire comfortably. And around 3/4 of Gen Z and millennials think that the widening gap between rich and poor is ever growing. I do it for peace of mind, I do it to benefit my mental health, and it gives me a sense of control about what I'm bringing in and where that is going. And that control ultimately helps me to project where I can go to moving forward, and allows me to build some sort of structure to mediate negative things that may happen. Obviously talking about building emergency funds, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. So we start with essentials. Now, I'm not going to bang on about this too much. We have to pay rent, we have to pay utilities, we have to pay council tax, we have to pay internet and food and water and all this stuff that we don't want to pay, but we have to survive. Now, there's a way I do this specifically to make it easy for myself and to allow me not to overspend. One of the ways I do so is by treating myself at the first week of every single month. Now, what do I mean by treating myself? On my birthday month, I bought myself a nice pair of Jordans. I'm currently improving my office, and this month's treat was a big IKEA wardrobe that took me a little while to put up with help from my brother, but it's up now. And has really helped liven the mood of the office and obviously give some good storage. But stuff like this, stuff that I want or to improve my life or to improve my current situation, like this big old wardrobe right here. It's a humongous thing. It actually takes up like half of the length of this office. Like my desk is here, it's connected right to this wardrobe. It's something that has improved quality of living, sure, but it's just a nice treat for myself. And the reason for treating yourself every single month is that discipline outperforms sacrifice. Spending £100 or £200 at the start of every month versus constant weekend spending binges because you don't have a structure in place is going to eat away at a lot of your budget without you even realising it. But I know by working hard throughout the month and sacrificing throughout the month that at the start of every week I'm going to treat myself with something. So it's the discipline that I know that the treat is coming to me at the start of every month anyway. It's a discipline of knowing that that's coming up and I can wait for it. Rather than trying to sacrifice all my money at one time and I just get sick and tired of it and then blow a bunch of money on something which I could then later on regret. Again, part of the essentials is clearing debt. I use a credit card for sort of major online purchases. I recently booked a couple flights to Ryanair. Those were on the credit card. Makes it a bit safer if there's any problems. It's easier to get money back from a credit card than it is a debit card because it is the bank's money, not my money. But obviously at the end of every month that credit card balance gets reset to zero. I pay it off down to zero. I never let a credit card balance last more than 28 days on the card. That's standard practice I think everyone should uphold. Big one for me, and this is when we get into the actual budgeting of things. I went through about 3 or 4 months worth of bank statements and totaled up and averaged out how much money I was spending on food and going out and restaurants and little pub things here and there, and I added all that amount up together, worked out an average of how much I was spending per month. Then the average, I transferred that prospective amount from my main bank account over to a Monzo account, and that Monzo account only has that monthly amount of money to spend, and I use Monzo as my spending account. Why do I do this? It's because I know that there's more money in the current account that I could use, but again, we're instilling discipline, we're instilling a proper budget, and having a dedicated spending account where there is a limited amount of money in it will allow me to not splurge when I don't need to splurge, and allows me to keep tabs of where I am during the month. And let's say I'm a week away from payday and I've used all the money in the Monzo account, okay, going to have to transfer a little bit over to it, obviously for spending reasons, but I can go back over the statements and realise, did I spend a bit too much here? And it's just a whole learning process. Again, we're not sacrificing spending money because we should be spending money, we should be having fun, but ultimately we have to do so with discipline. And if our current account is always going to zero every single month and we're just waiting for that next paycheck, ultimately, that portions of that money aren't going to things that would better our lives in the future, and we're just in the rabbit cage waiting every month for money, and we never escape the rat race that people like to say. And the last essential is just to create a short monthly budget. If I know I'm going on a holiday, or if I know I've had this trip to London, or if I know I'm going out with my friends in 2 weeks, that gets budgeted in, because these are costs that are added onto standard day-to-day living costs, so that they need to be budgeted in and funds allocated to them to make sure we're not in the situation of running out of spending money at the end of the month. So that is the essentials laid out. That's what I do with my money, of things that I need to do. But now let's go on to purpose. Now, purpose and money-driven purpose is something that isn't taught and isn't talked about enough, especially to younger people. I feel like most younger people are just seen as consumers, whereas that narrative really should change, and I think it is changing ever so slowly with Gen Z. I think we're becoming a bit more savvy with our money. We're becoming a lot less consumeristic. But young people are going to be the most targeted when it comes to advertisement campaigns, etc. That's how it's always going to be. Some purpose-led places my money go. Number 1, my lifetime ISA to help build my house deposit. Very self-explanatory. I max out my lifetime ISA every single year to help build towards my first house deposit to use to help me buy my first home. We're building equity in something. We are working towards owning something. I don't want to be renting forever. I don't want money to be going down the drain forever. We are working towards ownership, and we are working towards eventually paying off that mortgage. Obviously, we're talking 20 odd years in the future now, but being able to own something and not have that be taken away from you under any circumstance. Obviously, it adds a layer of safety, and as someone, like I said, grew up in a working class household, financial safety has never been a big thing, so I do strive for that personally myself. Keeping on track with investments and building financial security for later on in life. I have a private pension set up. I had a private pension set up that I set up for myself. It wasn't done by some uncle or anything like that. I set it up myself from the age of 21 and started with very simply just £100 a month, and has slowly been building up over time. And I'm in a very good job role now, and I do foresee a good career path moving forward, which ultimately means that, hopefully the monthly contributions can scale up a little bit. But again, I want to be 50, 55 with a decently sized retirement pot that I could leverage to retire early potentially, or just to have a bit more safety and a bit more capability to turn around to that annoying boss and tell him to do one if the situation calls for it, and build up that pot of FU money. We're very lucky in the UK to have things like state pension and to have initiatives like the lifetime ISA and all the benefits that come with being a first time buyer. But ultimately, once that ship has sailed and you get into the age of sort of your 40, 45, 50, I don't want to be left high and dry with only £100,000. That'll last me a couple of years. That'll last me sort of like maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and then I'm sort of early 60s. I haven't even reached state pension age yet, which God knows what it's going to be. It's going to be 100 years old when I get there. But the whole point is just building this layer of financial security that I can leverage to allow me to make decisions that I actually want to make moving forward, and not have to take a job for the money, not have to take a project for the money. I can take it more for enjoyment, which later on in life becomes more of a priority for most people than it does money. Maybe I should have put this one top of the list. I should have just had a whole paragraph of this at the first minute of the video, but building the emergency fund at this current stage in life is so important. Ultimately, it is just a high interest savings account that I'm allocating a small bit of money to every month. I'm just building that pot and just forgetting about it. I never withdraw money from it. I never have anything to do with it. It's just there in case of emergencies. Should an emergency fund be an essential? Yes, but not having one isn't going to kill me. Where it's purpose-led because I believe I require an emergency fund to allow myself to more comfortably save for a house deposit and to look at other things like last on our list, business ventures. There are a couple side projects that I'm working on at the minute, a few things that need investment. This YouTube channel, for example, requires an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, requires me to purchase this camera and a whole host of other little bits and bobs here and there that require investment. And it's something that I do aim to turn into a more regular thing and something I do very much enjoy doing. So a small amount of money is allocated every month to these business ventures, sort of side hustles for me to try out for my half purposeful but also a bit of pleasure as well involved with that. Key points to take away from this video: don't starve yourself trying to save, and remember that discipline outperforms sacrifice. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like. Comment down below how your budget may be structured. Always interested to hear. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. I'll catch you in a bit.